All right, everyone, we should be live again as usual. We will make sure that is actually the case. Of course, yesterday's Superchat Q&A and news roundup was cut short. That was because there were insufficient diapers upstairs, and you can only deal with so much background noise in proximity until you can't really maintain your focus anymore, and that takes a little while, of course, so I had to cut it short. Let me make sure that we're actually live on Rumble, which means I have to start this. Let's see. Come on. Yeah, we're live on Rumble. Okay, excellent. By the way, you may still hear baby noises in the background. That's going to be a semi-permanent fixture, I think, of this channel. That being said, there are sufficient diapers today upstairs, so that should be perfectly fine. We'll get to some super chats first, and other chats as well. Green Top LLC first. I don't approve of first posting. But anyway, we'll do a recap of some of the things we talked about yesterday. First was, of course, from Biden. President Biden at POTUS on Twitter. Florida's Don't Say Gay law takes effect today. The latest attempt by Republicans in state houses to target LGBTQI+ students, teachers, and families. Legislatures shouldn't be in the business of censoring educators, and the U.S. Department of Education will do all in its power to protect students. Very, very interesting message. Joe Biden, who has a proclivity towards maybe hugging little girls a little bit too close and sniffing women as well. He doesn't appear to be a pedophile. He appears not to really care about age, actually, including in the past when people older than him, hey, I want to sniff your hair too. He's kind of a creepy dude. And the thing is, when we look at the Don't Say Gay bill from Florida that's been sponsored by people like DeSantis, it has nothing to do with not saying gay. It has to do with not expressing orientation. These are government officials. They're teachers. They're tax funded. Don't bring little kids into your personal life and start talking about romantic and sexual shit when they're at a young age. If they're doing it with high school seniors, it might be cringy. They might get laughed at. Nobody cares. This is a law protects elementary school kids mainly. So these are little kids, often in the one-digit age range. They do not need to be told by a teacher about their orientation. There is a fundamental problem with that. This teacher grades their homework. This teacher can punish them. This teacher can tell them you passed or you didn't pass on the test. Does it not compel them at least to pay lip service to a certain orientation situationally if that teacher has expressed whether they're gay, straight, bi, whatever it happens to be? I would say, number one, yes. Number two, do parents have a right to have their kids in a school in which there is no mention of this at a young age? Again, with young, impressionable kids, they may have religious beliefs, whatever, or irreligious beliefs. Maybe it's a gay couple, their kid, they want to be gay, and a teacher says, well, I happen to be straight. Yeah, I don't go with the LGBT stuff. Pride for me is straight pride. Well, you don't need to talk about that in front of the kids. It's none of their business, number one. It's none of your business telling them that as a government employee, number two. And third, of course, what I would say, definitely, is that because it's taxpayer funded, there shouldn't be mention of explicit sexual material either. Again, to little kids. The Florida bill also covers some of the groomer literature that we've seen peddled to little kids, in some cases as young as 5 or 6. Much of it is explicit. I've been sparring with people on this thread, by the way. There's Fernando Quinones there. I said in response to this, I'll go through it. I did before the other day, but I'll go through it again because it's solid gold. I said in response to POTUS, good to have you on record as wanting to teach elementary school kids explicit sex acts. Considering half your friends went to Epstein Island, I am unsurprised. I hold to that. I don't think there's anything wrong with what I posted. Fernando Quinones said none of what you said is true. Now, he is a San Francisco-based immigration lawyer, so there might be a little bit of politics involved there. Where I'm just going to say, and then he goes through it, and is funny. I don't care where you're getting your wacky literature from. Why are you crazy so obsessed with pedophilia? Do you not have anything else going on in your life besides thinking about sex with children? Weirdo. The problem is the literature is addressing that exact issue in many cases. And much of it, by the way, he claims to be, what was it, LGBTQ advocate. You need to update your acronym there because it's not the same one that your golden boy Biden uses, by the way, Fernando. And link in the description to this. You can go and clank if you want to on this thread. The problem is this. Some of this is straight literature, but it's still sexually explicit. It's talking about, there's one, a famous, I posted it, and it's talking about like some chick she's banging your boyfriend and stuff. And she's explaining to her little brother of indeterminate age, but assumed to be underage, oh yeah, his penis gets hard and my vagina gets very wet. And he pushes it in and out and sprays sperm inside of my vagina and stuff like that. And it's just creepy. If you're showing that to middle schoolers, they'll get uncomfortable. They'll say, ew, icky. If you show it to high school students, by and large, they're going to laugh their asses off because it's just so goddamn fucking cringy. When you're showing it to little kids, it is grooming. They do not need to be exposed to that kind of material. I can remember like there was this one legendary adventure of mine. I was in, I think, 5th grade, maybe 4th. And we had sex ed and, you know, they're describing the penis and the vagina and, you know, meiosis and all of these things. And there was this one scene, I can remember this is back in the 90s or early 2000s, and it showed a penis and it was flaccid and getting erect. And it like went up in little stages like this. And for the rest, I laughed my ass off. And for the rest of my day, myself and several others, we were the problem kids of the class, of course. We're doing that to people and going like, do. And getting people to laugh as a result of it. We just thought it was hilarious. When you're a bit older, maybe that's just funny, but you're talking about kids here that are 6 or 7 years old. They do not need to be involved with learning about that kind of sexuality. The only thing they need to learn about is stranger danger and shit like that at that age. They don't need to learn about sexuality in any further manner. It's not necessary. It's also not proper. And also, I would say the parents have the right to weigh in. We've seen school board meetings devolve into people insulting each other because parents will show up and say, look, there's this piece of literature. It's an official part of the curriculum. It's not just in the school library. It's an official part of the curriculum. My child has to read this. They have to test on it. They have to absorb this material. And it's unconscionable. It's too explicit. It's saying weird shit. And I don't approve of that. And these people get ridiculed as being extremist for some reason. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So Biden is dead wrong. You can go through this and you can see Fernando there saying weird shit. Nobody is promoting that literature except you, says Fernando. And then I provided an example here along with other people. There's one here. For years, my standard method of masturbation was stuffing a sock into the front of my pants and manipulating the bulge. This would evolve into hip thrusting while thinking of my latest gay ship. Memorably, I got off once while driving just by rubbing the front of my jeans and imagining getting a blowjob. I promise I'm a really safe driver. Interesting. You know, let's show that to second graders. By the way, if that were straight, as far as the material, if it were someone fantasizing about his girlfriend or whatever, do you think that it would be allowed in the curriculum? Methinks not. And so Biden doesn't give a shit about these things. He doesn't care about LGBT, whatever. He probably thinks they're weird because, you know, he's an old white bigot from the last century. But he's willing to grandstand. So yeah, Florida's don't say gay law. No, it's don't tell your orientation to 12 to 10-year-olds law. And don't groom kids law, really. The child is Chuffy up there again. I choose exactly the wrong time of day, I think, to stream. I should probably wait a little bit longer or do it a little bit earlier. Lev Polyakov, greetings, Sticks. What's going on with the Dutch WEF megacity project? I don't know anything about that, but I do know that they're attempting to confiscate farmers' land by forcing them off their land by telling them they can't have as many animals. Effectively, they'll have to downsize or they'll have to just sell out and say, you know, fuck it. You know, I can get 2 million euros for my land here because I'm near Amsterdam or Den Haag or something. And they'll develop it. They'll make condominiums. And I can make out like a bandit and I can get my garden house. or I can sit and fight this and probably lose. Fire down below. Do you believe the Philadelphia experiment was real? I can't remember. Which one was the Philadelphia experiment? I've delved deep into the weird side of things. Which one was the Philadelphia experiment? Yeah, which one was this one? The Navy attempted to render a destroyer escort invisible. I think that one I don't necessarily believe in. But the Montauk experiment, if you want something way creepier, by the way. Desiccated corpse. Hello, little girl. Sniffs your hair. I want an ice cream. Want an ice cream? Vanilla's my favorite, baby. Yeah, that's Joe Biden in a nutshell. Sebastian Monroe. Good morning, Sticks. I hope you enjoy the pics I sent you of the lake I'm at. Yes, I saw those. Thank you. I imagine Vermont and Wisconsin share similar serene wild lands. I wish you were here. We've got also a lot of well, not really lakes, but a lot of canals here. It's a very aquatic environment that I happen to be in. Michael Cricklow. What event or series of events would have to take place for congressional term limits to be taken seriously? Clank. I actually don't believe in term limits for politicians. I think that as long as they are standing on their merits, they should be reelected. What I believe is that people need to get more of a mind for civics and not just reelect them because they're incumbent. Kyra Bachele. Hi, Sticks. You, Lauren Chen, and myself all had babies around the same time, and it makes the content all the more better. Keep up the great work. Thank you. We're filling the world with intelligent people. Blue collar. Crying babies make strong fathers. Oh, then, Jesus, I need to hit the gym, I suppose. No, she's pretty chill much of the time, just not all of the time. Mr. Wonderful, happy Independence Day to all my Yanks from an Australian. Fight like hell. Unfortunately, a lot of people, instead of fighting, they just sort of roll over like a goddamn dying fish. But yeah, it's not quite Independence Day, though. 87 Sparky. I live in Florida. I like this bill. I'm gay, and you're right. Little kids don't need to learn these things until they get to a certain age. Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly the point. They don't need to hear that their teacher's straight either. Why don't they need to hear about penis and vagina any more than penis and penis, like docking or something like that? Nobody cares. Keep it to yourself until they're old enough to actually take part in a reasoned conversation. 5, 6, 7-year-old kids don't need to hear that shit. Teach them how to read something meaningful. Teach them how to, that 2 + 2 = 4 instead of doing woke math. Will Gooding. Sticks, knowing that you are an avid gardener and outdoor enthusiast, I assume that you find plants as fascinating as I do. Any thoughts on preserving the American chestnut tree? I'm not so much into trees. I'm much more into herbaceous plants, herbs, flowers, things like that. I like some trees. My favorite's the paper birch because they're very, very useful. But yeah, chestnut trees are pretty cool. I think there might be one actually back in Rutland. I know there's a chestnut tree. I don't know if it's an American chestnut. ET&M. Biden may as well make Ukraine the 51st state. Yeah, I mean, technically speaking, under U.S. law, you could, any foreign country can petition to be admitted as a state or group of states. The Philippines has been suggested for this. I don't see the problem with it. Corto Maltese. Sticks, you really need to go on Timcast and teach them something about Christianity. Sheamus is out of control. Be careful of Ian, though. Don't mention the Federal Reserve. I will be going on Timcast, presumably in the future. I have an open invitation for that, but I have to be in the U.S. to do it. Opinionated Junkie. Thoughts on Westerns and cowboys? I like Westerns, some of them. I thought Gunsmoke was pretty good because my grandpa used to watch it every single friggin' day on TV Land when he was still alive, and God, I must have watched every episode 2-3 times. He liked Bonanza as well, but not as much as Gunsmoke. Now we'll get to the second story. This is a very big one. U.S. stocks fall to start the third quarter as Fed forecast suggests a recession is already here. That is right. We are tentatively, and I will qualify that, tentatively already in a Biden recession. The idea is that the Fed forecast is for a GDP shrinkage second quarter, which is the one before where we are now, of about 1%, which compacts, I believe, with the first quarter's already negative result, which is bad, to tell the truth. And there's no reason to believe it won't go down in the third quarter, considering all the economic indicators. This report may be wrong. This is a tentative report. They still have to compile all the numbers. But the Fed forecast, the model they're using, has a margin of error generally of about 0.3, which means that it's like as not that it's worse than better and probably still negative, which would be the official recession declaration. 2 consecutive quarters of GDP shrinkage tends to be used as that particular indicator. So there is a Biden recession. When that is probably declared over the next weeks or month or so, look for him to blame other people. Well, it was Putin's fault. Putin price hikes, Putin gas hikes, Putin recession. Yay. It's the problem of price gougers. Price gougers have made it impossible for people to buy more product. Therefore, the GDP shrank. He will blame other people. He has this penchant. By the way, if you're watching on YouTube, pinned comment in the live comments, actually, to the Substack that I made earlier today, which deals with that, his lack of responsibility taking, which is very funny because he specifically invoked it as candidate Biden. Long gone are the good old days back when he pretended to have a working brain cell. So yeah, we're in a Biden recession right before the 4th of July. Happy 4th of July, everyone. Apparently a bunch of fireworks celebrations have been canceled. A lot of cities don't want to have it, probably because they don't like the United States. Partially because people don't have the money to really enjoy the 4th of July anyway. You know, they're the average barbecue, which is severely underdeveloped when you look at what they're including in it, is up more than $10 year over year. You'll notice that the White House didn't do what it did last year and say, well, the price of your 4th of July barbecue is down 17 cents or whatever the hell it was. They haven't done that. I wonder why. It's funny because NPR actually made a piece about it and has been promoting it multiple times on Twitter, which is hysterical. JWT6577. She cries when you start recording. A few years from now, when she's stream sniping her favorite streamer, she might have a vague memory of these days. Yeah. No, normally if I do one-off videos, it's not a problem. But live streaming, I think that I have a tendency to project my voice more when I'm live, you know, because it's more long form. I don't know. Opinionated junkie. Maryland can buy rifles and shotguns, but handguns, Yeah, it's interesting how handguns are considered the enemy in some states and then long guns in others. It doesn't make any sense. Zhao Bertoncini. And I'm probably mispronouncing your first name. I apologize. Memology 101. Have 2 videos with Freudian slips mentioning indoctrination plan at a school and world order at the White House. Are them testing the waters? Possibly. Liberal world order also comes to mind with regards to what you're saying. The Agal Faces. Hi, Sticks. Have you already listened to Drab Majesty, creators of the tragic wave genre? Pretty much a hybrid of 80s rock and synthwave made by goths. Never heard of them. I'll look it up over here for later. I think I've heard of the name of Drab. I'll look that up later. Sounds good to me. It's got gothy tendencies. So yeah, the second news of the day really is that we are in a recession officially now. Well, semi-officially, but there's no reason to believe that the Fed's numbers will be considerably better than 1% GDP shrinkage. And that is partially Biden's fault. He attacked the energy industry. He has encouraged lockdownerism, which led to part of this problem. And now prices are too high for people to buy as much. And you wonder why the prices are through the roof. Inflation's through the roof. I wonder why the economy is shrinking. People can't buy as much. They're saving whatever little bit of money that they can. If they're in like the middle or upper middle class, if they are capable of tightening their belts, they're tightening their belts. They're ironically doing what leftoids suggested they do. Just stop being so materialistic and eat the lentils. Okay, say 1 million people, we'll buy less. Oh, you mean that means GDP is lower because businesses aren't being able to shell out as much tax money because they're making less money overall to be taxed? Oh my God, it's such a surprise. Pilgrim Media, hail Sticks, congratulations on the Bambino. Thank you very much. Bamboo Acrobat sent 99 cents, but no comment. Thank you very much. We're, by the way, at 2,000 listeners on YouTube and Twitch combined. Almost 300 on Rumble. So we're already nearing, was that 8 Biden loser units? A Biden loser unit is 300 viewers live on a stream. This is about how many people show up to watch Biden live when he speaks in person. And considerably more than some of the streams used to get, too. These days, it's better because he has the official like White House account and stuff like that. So you get a bunch of Trump fans that show up just to downvote it, which is why they have, well, in part, why YouTube has gotten rid of the dislike button. By the way, you can restore this. There are add-ons for basically every browser by which you can do so. I think the cat's going to try to come up here, so you might see some shaky. Josh Eternal, how much money did you make from Mr. Roboto? Kidding. That was really wise. Really ninja-like, too. She didn't quite make the jump. Jesus. None. I got no money from that because I don't do ad revenue. The Grizzly, what's your favorite thing about the 4th of July? I'm assuming, by the way, that you mean the Marco Roboto spinoff that I did. About the 4th of July. My family goes out on a lake near us. The town there does fireworks over the water every year. I like the fireworks. I mean, obviously, you don't have them here in the Netherlands because they don't celebrate the 4th because it's not the United States. And then probably the food. Just the getting together and eating a lot of food with family is always a fun thing. It's tasty. And I make a mean Greek pasta and a bunch of other shit now. So the next 4th of July, if I'm in the United States, I'm going to be quite formidable there. I will make the Greek pasta salad. I will make some hot dogs. I make them with chili, which I make myself as well. It was delicious. Goat cheese. Oh, yeah. I can't wait. Spider Eternal. If he's concerned with gas prices, he can get rid of the gas taxes instead of blaming oil companies. He just stopped more drilling. What an asshole. Well, there is a gas tax holiday, which is why the price is down very slightly. That and freeing up from the strategic oil reserves. But it's a drop in the bucket. The prices are still above $4.50. So it doesn't make any difference. What's the difference between $4.50 and $5? The average middle class are still, they're going to burn through their savings trying to pay the amount of that they have to for gas if they have to do any commuting. Desiccated corpse. In Melbourne, woke mobs are protesting what's happening in the U.S., Roe v. Wade, whilst there's anti-mandate COVID protesters getting assaulted by the woke mob. Yeah, it's interesting. It's your body, your choice, unless it comes to jabbing yourself full of something. Yeah. Josh Eternal, the song Mr. Roboto by Styx. I did a cover about that, of that back in the 2016 election called Marco Roboto. And I thought that was very, very funny. They probably did make a lot of money off that fucking song, though. It was not really a one-hit wonder. They had a few other songs that charted around the same time, but it's definitely a big one. And a meme one. Mr. Wonderful, we live in a time when the Rainbow Crew get a whole month, and those who gave all in war get a day. Fire down below. Love and appreciate the live streams. I hope you do them every day. Also, what happened to yesterday's? Yesterday's was destroyed because, unfortunately, there was a diaper shortage issue upstairs. And at some point, the amount of crying addles my brain, and I can no longer focus. So I just said, fuck it, basically. I figured I would just roll over the news to the next day, which is what I'm doing now. Not Jimmy Stewart. Call it freedom pasta, please. Bamboo Acrobat. Maxwell, 20 years, and Assange, maybe 175. Yeah, there is a huge difference between the amount of time that Assange will spend in jail potentially and the amount Ghislaine Maxwell will. By the way, she served 2 years already. She can get half time or near so, and a potentially compassionate release. So she won't be in there for very long. And she's in a low security facility, very cushy with its own gardens and shit. She can rape, young women in this facility at a whim. She'll be shielded. They'll probably funnel them to her. They'll probably groom young women in the prison to, do some scissoring, and they'll get something in their commissary. She won't have a bad time. She'll do everything she wants to do, she can do in this prison. Ryan McDonald, USA. Do Dutch consider themselves Deutsch, like German? No, the Dutch and Germans are not the same thing. For one thing, the Dutch are capable of winning wars. Anonymous, do you hear the Rage Pig has the gift? Pause hog. Yeah, I see that meme. I have no clue if it's true, and I don't get in on it because I'm not into e-drama. I casually watch like the Ethan Ralph, Medicare Warski sort of nexus of e-drama, but I don't involve myself in it or really care per se. Bartimaeus 1. The Dems seem really dispirited. My American lefty friends bemoan the loss of Roe v. Wade, but don't seem to associate voting for the Dems as a way to correct it. Not looking good for the Dems at all. Yes, and that has something to do with the congressional generic ballot not really moving after Roe v. Wade. People don't think that the Democrats will do anything about it, and they're completely right. They just want to use it as an election issue. Will Gooding, Sticks, I am currently growing well over 30 potato plants in my backyard this year because of you. So glad I took your advice weeks ago pertaining to the recession, which is now upon us. Clank. Them's tasty eating, them spuds. The Grizzly, will Kamala step down for 24 or be ego-driven enough to run for 24 bid against Trump? Do you think that she could beat Trump? She couldn't beat anybody. She came in 5th in the Dem primary. She doesn't have a support base. Hell, she's less approved of than fucking Joe Biden. Now, a third piece of news here. We have a Hill article. Democrats should become single-issue voters. The courts. Yeah, this will work really well. By Jessica Tarlov and Antiwan Seawright, opinion contributors. The views expressed by contributors are their own and not the view of the Hill. Well, I mean, you invited them to write the piece, so they kind of do. And talking about how the courts have been overhauled by evil Trump and the Supreme Court is terrible and Clarence Thomas is, I can't even use the terminology. Did make a video a few weeks ago on that, an Oreo or whatever. I'll use the mild term that the leftoids use. Here's the problem about the Democrats voting single issue with regards to the courts. Let's say that you, and it won't happen, but let's say you maintain your House and Senate majorities. What changes? How are you going to get around the filibuster that's still guaranteed to be there? Manchin is going to stand in the way of ending it. There aren't the votes beyond filibuster to end the Senate filibuster. You're not going to be able to stack the courts, therefore. You're not going to be able to pass legislation to increase it, so that's off the table. There's no reason to believe that Thomas and Alito, who are the older right-wing justices, are going to keel over anytime soon. You're looking at, I would expect, at least a half decade, possibly a decade of the court being pro-gun, being pro-originalism. I, by the way, see this largely as a good thing. With Roe v. Wade, I happen to be pro-choice, but Roe v. Wade in and of itself, when did the Democrats being single-issue voters, wouldn't it be more fruitful to simply say they should be single-issue voters, punish the Democrats, and get rid of the Democrats that never did anything to enshrine the ability of a woman's right to choose? It's not the Supreme Court's fault. They said they were going to visit the case long ago. The Democrats still did nothing. Not one fucking thing other than a handful of states like Vermont enshrined the ability very quickly. A few others did. For the most part, they didn't do anything. So why would you vote for the Democrats? What's the point? Single-issue voters. Yes, single-issue voters are known for their intelligence, by the way. This is the same kind of nonsense that actually causes the Democrats to lose. The idea that they should go way, way out there and that they should literally ignore all issues to the exception of exactly one is a really big problem for them. They are encouraged to do this by people who know absolutely nothing about U.S. civics, by the way. Seors, does the Biden White House sometimes tip your sociopath warning? Their BS sometimes seems to edge into that desperate, crazy street person vibe. Yeah, some of the people behind the scenes are probably psychopaths, yeah. Ryan McDonald, USA, do immigrants become Americans or U.S. citizens? Well, they'd become both at the same time. A resident would technically be already an American. They're living on the American continent and involved in that civic structure. A little bit different. The Agal faces. Sticks, you already know about Bidenflation, but have you heard about the new MSNBC inflationary term with a bear market known as the furry inflation? I hope that that's real. I really do. Send me something on Twitter if that's actually not just a meme. J-Glow, hit the like button and let's become the vocal majority. I think that we already have, actually. Sebastian Monroe, do the Dutch make better chocolate than Germans? Probably anyone does. They definitely make better beer. I tried a German beer exactly once. This was, I think, a couple years ago. It tasted like underarm or something. Or tomato, maybe. Maybe they put tomato in their beer or something. The Germans don't understand these things. But the Germans, I mean, they want to suffer. If there's too little suffering, they're not happy. And so they make their beer shitty. The Dutch beer is better. Not saying that I drink beer. I haven't in a very long time. But if you were going to, I can't remember the name of the German beer that I tried, but I tried 3 or 4 different ones, and none of them were good. They all sucked. They had like weird flavors to them and stuff. Battle Elf, if 21 politicians were massacred like the children of Uvalde, would Greg Abbott and Ken Paxton be as silent? Yeah, probably. They should be silent. There's nothing to be done about it. Psychopaths will always butcher other people. There's no reason for more so-called gun control, which is really just an attack on the Second Amendment, because none of these suggestions they make would help anything. Lance Corporal Veteran, is it oxymoronic to call a movement anti-establishment since most change their end goals to become establishment? Yeah, that is true. Anti-establishment movements want to become part of it. It's more lucrative, and anytime you wield power, you become part of that same nexus. Josh, do you agree that Dementia Joe worships Slanesh? No, I don't even think he has the intelligence to be able to understand spiritual issues at this point. I think that he's just completely out of town mentally. Ryan Griffin, there would be no America today and perhaps tomorrow without patriots and their firearms. Also, the Democrats and Republicans are just 2 branches of the Wall Street banker party. Depends on which Democrat or Republican. The leftoids and the non-neocon like MAGA types are not part of the Wall Street banker group. The leftoids are even worse because they're communists. The MAGA sort of populist libertarian core actually makes sense. You have to learn how to look past party affiliation. Steve Fernald, have you been to the Tulip Festival in Holland? No, I have not. Jessica, Grandpa Biden says the fourth's extra $20 for food and $80 for gas is totally worth it if the Nazis win. Oh, wait, what the fuck? Yeah, it is funny. We got to defeat Russia by defeating our own population. By making Americans suffer, somehow Putin will magically go away. Cordo Maltese, hey now, I'm a sociopath diagnosed, and not all of us are bad. The higher the intellect, the better we are at fitting in and not breaking laws. Yeah, that's fine. Callahan SF2211, thoughts on Jair Bolsonaro in Brazil? I'd vote for him if I were a Brazilian. I wouldn't be voting for, what's his name there, the fucking communist. Soapmaker19, happy 4th, everyone. Off to work in 12 hours, probably more on the ambulance. Stay safe, everyone. Yeah, you get to spend a few hours with 10-year-olds that blew their hand off with a firework. Gorgeous Mayhem. Oh no, the Supreme Court's made decisions we don't like. Let's change everything. Making rules by following the law is illegitimate. Spurgery. Yeah, but I mean, in all honesty, and this is not a defense of the leftoids on this position, the right wing does the same fucking shit. Okay, next news story. We've got New York's gun laws. This is from the AP. New York would require people applying for handgun license to turn over a list of their social media accounts so officials could verify their character and conduct under a bill being considered Friday by the state legislature. Yes, New York has learned nothing from the Bruen decision. Neither, by the way, did California. Massachusetts, however, appears to have done so. I'm not sure about New Jersey or Maryland. And so New York effectively will be forced to issue concealed carry permits. But they're saying, okay, we have to issue them, but we can run people through the ringer to get them, which is, by the way, isn't it what I predicted would happen in these states if Bruin's decision came in on favor of gun rights? If it was a limited decision, that is, shall issue becomes the law of the land, well, we'll simply make it harder. We'll up the prices. We'll make people run through hoops. In this case, this will not hold up before a court. That's a guarantee, and I'll tell you why. This violates the Fourth Amendment. You're saying to a person, you have to let us effectively inspect you social credit score style. We can't keep the permit away from you, but we can access all of your private shit and look through it with a fine-tooth comb in a process that, by the way, would take a very onerous amount of time. And I have a feeling that this is a setup where the idea is that you want to have a considerable backlog so that 6 months later, the person still doesn't have a permit. You intend to issue it to them. You're not denying them a permit. You're not violating their Second Amendment right to carry firearms. You're just making it extremely long, extremely expensive, and extremely uncomfortable. it will get shot down by the courts. Further, Hochul is trying to make a system where effectively concealed carry is pointless because there's nowhere you can carry the weapon outside of your private property or on the street. So you can't go into a business, you can't go into a bank, you can't go anywhere. You can simply walk around on the sidewalk. That is also unlikely to hold muster. The problem is that they're trying to create an opt-in system with regards to allowing guns on private premises. Why would the state's government be allowed to force a business, compel it to not allow guns unless it explicitly states otherwise? Why an opt-in instead of an opt-out system where they say, okay, guns are now allowed in the private businesses, but they are allowed to say you're not allowed to have a gun in your private business? That's because they don't want guns. They don't want the permitting process. It's clearly unconstitutional, and it will be found that way, I think, even by the lower courts. Bruin will be used in part as a precedent for this. The concept that a state government has the right to compel individuals not to carry guns effectively anywhere that they go, unless private businesses at their own expense, that will be a problem, even if you only have to pay a couple dollars to make the sign, to force those businesses to opt in to allow people into their businesses. That's going to be a bit of a no-no. And the first time that someone gets arrested for carrying one in a business that doesn't explicitly have the sign, but doesn't have a problem with it and simply did not put up the sign, there will be a federal lawsuit. It will be very interesting. Batman, Sticks, take my money and let the log slide. Yes, I paid Danny Filth a few days ago, actually, to declare the future dreamy and talk about Animator Man steaming the competition. I was very proud of that. Considering paying him to make one that has to do with piss in some way, I'll try to script it and see what I can do. Nobody, Joy Division, Bauhaus, or Killing Joke. All three. Susie and the Banshees, preferably, though. Tiara Starbrighter, as a linguistics guy, would you go on a video on leftist politicians who go on about gun crime and gun violence instead of just crime and violence? Yeah, but that'd be old hat, because it's like the answer is simple. They just don't like the Second Amendment. They don't have a problem with high crime. They just don't want those crimes to be committed with weapons that they feel uncomfortable with because it's an equalizer. They have private security or a gated community with a guard and stuff like that. And those people they're never challenged as far as their ability to own firearms. Only you little people shouldn't be allowed to own them. OJ Simp, gun rights don't matter because of red flag laws. Those will probably be on the chopping block too, to tell the truth, with the Bruin decision. I mean, it's self-evident that it's unconstitutional. A person hasn't been charged with any crime. If you don't have the evidence to be able to detain them, then you shouldn't have the evidence to be able to confiscate their fucking property. Why isn't this, by the way, to the leftoids, why aren't you tying this in with civil asset forfeiture? Isn't it the same basic premise? Or stop and frisk? These laws that you ridiculed for years and years? How is it any different? It's the same thing. Cold Summer 91. So if the shots shut down people's immune systems, does that mean if we get a new Spanish flu, it will be world-ending? No, there won't be a disease that ends the world. But we have plenty of disease around. Then there's another link in the description if you want to see something very funny. This is from Libs of TikTok. Of course, this is amusing to many people. And by the way, I think we're at 10 or even 11. Yeah, we're near 11 Biden loser units, so pretty great. I'll get to some other chats soon. Don't worry, but we've got to go through this. Libs of TikTok. Wholesome, innocent, beautiful, family-friendly entertainment. Of course, it happens to be a stripper parading around with what appears to be maybe a 4 or 5-year-old girl with a tiara on. Yeah, that's really wholesome. At this point, it doesn't matter whether it's someone in drag or someone who's not in drag and is just a stripper. It's sexualizing children in a setting where adults are buying a lot of alcohol, it appears, at least from what I can see here. So you can look at that at your leisure, maybe participate if you have a Twitter account. Libs of TikTok, by the way, constantly harassed by leftoids for being very, very effective. Why is real close? Oh, there it goes. It took a minute to load. Let me see this. Maxwell with Schulz. Kind of late to talk about it, but are you aware that the recently removed Frisco DA actually had parents who were members of a Marxist terror group, the Weather Underground? Not being talked about enough. Yeah, but we've had Weather Underground people inform a former president of the United States, namely Barack Obama. One of his great friends in his college years was from the Weather Underground, a bomb maker, if I remember correctly. This was considered politically incorrect to talk about at the time. I wonder why. But then again, nobody was given any alternative. The alternative to the dude who's running for office who had a friend who made bombs for a Marxist terrorist organization was a dude that wanted to drop bombs in Iran and start World War III. Can you understand why the 2008 and 2012 elections were a goddamn joke? 2016 is the first time since the 80s that there was an election in which not all candidates goddamn sucked ass. ES1776, hey Sticks, how can I get an autographed copy of Critical Race Theory Debunked? In the future, that may be possible when I'm back in the US, but it wouldn't make any sense to spend the money to send that cross-Atlantic. And the mail system here is already a little bit weird compared to my standards. In the US, generally, the mail person doesn't go to your neighbors and say, hey, can you hold this mail for the next house over, and then leaves a slip with them. It's not something done in the United States. Next story. Oh, Bend Over sent $10. No comment, thank you. We've got to look at the direction of the country polling right now, because it couldn't be more dire for the Biden administration. Right now, if we look at it, 73.7% of the population believes that the United States is on the wrong track. It's a considerable number. By the way, there have been scarce few points in probably forever that the majority of the population believes it's on the right track. You get close to it, I think, for 1 day's polling period back. When is this? Yeah, right after Obama got in office. I think there was a very brief period when it was almost positive. It was like 50-50. The closest that we've come to a reasonable stability and people thinking that things weren't going wrong was actually under Donald Trump, roughly from the middle of 2017 to early 2020. In other words, before pandemic times, before January 6th, etc. I would point out something with this spread. Right now, the gap is 54.2%. That is higher than right after January 6th. It's higher than any point during Trump's presidency. In fact, it's the third highest that it's been in the last fucking decade and a half almost. The last time there was one point on October 12th through 18th, 2013, that people bitched about things more. And then there was a brief period for about a month and a half, actually, in November and December of 2011, both under Obama. Otherwise, things were nice and calm up until literally now. It's the economy, stupid. That's really what's happening here. People are looking at the gas prices. People are looking at the inflation numbers. People are looking, I think, at this point a bit at Ukraine, and they're blaming Biden for it in part, but they're saying effectively, at large, the country's moving in the wrong direction. By the way, again, there have been times when more people were pessimistic, taking a little bit of the wind out of the sails of the Civil War crowd, by the way. Not naming names, but there have been times when people thought things were actually worse than in the current era. But they're getting worse at the moment. The trajectory is sharply upward, and that's mainly economic issues. It's mainly about the gas. It's mainly about the inflation. We're going to get new inflation numbers over the next couple of weeks, and they're not going to be pretty. They're not going to be lower than last month. They're going to be higher. Biden will be lucky. He'll say, oh my God, we slowed down the rise of inflation. It's only up 2.2 instead of 0.3. He'll take credit for these goddamn things because he's so nuts. He's lost it. And people are blaming him. They're also blaming the Democrats. And keep in mind, there are plenty of people who are Democrats who think the country's going in the wrong direction. Even partisan Democrats have to go and fill up the tank of their car. Most of them don't actually own EVs because most of them don't have 50 grand to plop down on a vehicle. So yeah, the third highest in roughly 12, 13 years. You have to go back to the height of the Great Recession, probably back to the Bush administration to find maybe higher disapproval of the direction of the country. Higher than at any point in the Trump presidency by a considerable margin. So we've got wrong way Biden at the moment. Cold Summer 91. Which demographics do you think will get me liberal and more conservative during the next 20 years? Oh, you mean get more liberal or get more conservative? I think Gen Z is quickly becoming more conservative. It's the millennials that are dragging their heels. Millennials have arrested development because of a bizarre situation that they're in with the Great Recession and the internet and so forth. It's this generation, it's us, that's dragging its heels on maturing and not becoming, a bunch of whacked out old hippies. They're not dropping out of society, though. They're too hooked to their Apple devices, so they're still grifting off their boomer parents. It's funny when people say the country's fucked, just abandon ship now. Don't vote. Don't do anything positive for yourself. Be black-pilled. I hate to tell you this, but there actually have been worse times in U.S. history. Numerous times. It's just that this is the most bad modern time that people actually remember. And of course, people have recency bias. We will get through it. It'll be easier after the midterms when Biden's incapable of doing anything anymore. Once he's shooed aside and hopefully forced into resignation along with Kamala and these other morons, things will get demonstrably better. Once we get Trump back in 24, as I am now suspecting will actually be the case, pretty high likelihood, things will get better. That's what I want. And no, I don't prefer DeSantis over Trump. I like someone who's been tested and already passed the test. Fire down below. Roger Stone thinks Michelle Obama will run in 2024. What are your thoughts? Do you think she can beat Trump? Roger Stone also thinks that as of tomorrow, Trump will announce. So if Trump announces his run tomorrow, then we'll take it seriously. Until then, Michelle Obama has effectively ruled out a political life. She's already, and not in Hillary Clinton terms like, well, I'd be reluctant to do this. Well, now's not the time. No, explicit terms like, no, I have no intention of running for office. It's a thankless job. Fuck that. And I don't think she would win anyway because she's not as well-spoken as her husband. That's just the truth. We've got 10 Biden loser units between YouTube and Twitch at the moment, by the way. Random Japanese characters or Chinese, not sure. Sorry. Is Biden responsible for the gas prices in Asia? No, he's not. Lockdownerism is largely responsible for the gas prices. Guess who encouraged those lockdowns in the context of the U.S.? It was Joe Biden. That's his responsibility. Also, I don't think that any Asian government decided to attack its own energy industry, nixing pipeline deals and stuff. Scarlet Sticks, what are your thoughts on Curtis Yarkin, a.k.a. Mencius Moldbug, and his theory of inevitable civilization entropy? Never heard of him. Never heard of his theory. So I'd have to look it up. Ben Dover, more money for the diaper fund. Thank you. Opinionated Junkie, Michelle Obama, another Obama relic. No thanks. Yeah, I don't think it would go over too well because people already rejected the dynastic Bush-Clinton thing in 2016. Jeb Bush, Hillary, that was rejected. I have a feeling that they would probably reject an Obama dynasty too. Dr. Raoul says lol over on Twitch. Yeah, imagine Michelle Obama running, how funny it would be. I thought I had one other news story before this one. Just a second. Did I, oh, no, I didn't. Why did I count there as being one more there? Okay, never mind. Anyway, here's, this is more of a funny article. Don't put ketchup on a hot dog, says actual official hot dog council. The National Hot Dog and Sausage Council has some hot dog eating etiquette rules that you may not agree with. Well, I mean, that would be wrong, so yeah, you're not going to agree with it. I'd probably make a better hot dog than most of them, by the way. Just saying, I know how to make the bun nice and toasty and buttery and make a really nice sweet chili. Ketchup bad, artisanal buns good. Max out your bites to 5. That's some hot dog eating etiquette from the National Hot Dog and Sausage Council, an organization and information portal founded in 1994 that has some very stern do's and don'ts when it comes to consuming hot dogs. I figure this is relevant news because the 4th of July is tomorrow. By the way, happy 4th of July to everyone back in the States. The spinoff of the American Meat Institute. And it's funded by the hot dog companies. I guess Heinz didn't pay them enough money into their fund. Here are some of their commandments. Condiments should be applied in the following order. Wet condiments like mustard and chili are applied first, followed by chunky condiments like relish, onions, and sauerkraut, followed by shredded cheese, followed by spices. That makes sense. When you put the wet on the bottom, the stuff on the top is going to help to contain it a bit. And yeah, that makes sense. Keeps it from oozing out. Okay, we'll allow that one. As a expert on hot dogs with ketchup on them, I'll allow it. Serve sesame seed, poppy seed, and plain buns with hot dogs. Sun-dried tomato buns or basil buns are considered gauche with Franks. Well, they're still tasty, so yeah, I would prefer one with the poppy seed probably, or just a regular one. It doesn't really matter, but that you can allow it either way. So that's okay. Don't take more than 5 bites to finish a hot dog. For a foot-long wiener, 7 bites are acceptable. That's going to be a problem with people with smaller mouths. Maybe not somebody like me, but can you imagine, like, oh, are you going to tell this to a 10-year-old? Yeah, that's really going to happen. They'll either smash it down their throat like I would have as a kid, and make a mess everywhere, like I did with that meatball sub at Sbarro's that time when I was like 10. I told that story a long time ago, or you're going to nibble on it. By the way, the hot dog tends to protrude over the edge of the bun. The only way to eat it properly is to nibble off the 2 ends that protrude first. You must do that first, otherwise things aren't even, and your OCD will act up. Fresh herbs on the same plate with hot dogs overdo the presentation. Hot dogs are not really a presentation food. Generally speaking, they would be served on their paper plate at the 4th of July on their own, or like tater tots or something like that, maybe some potato salad. I can't imagine, I've never seen anyone present herbs on the plate with their hot dogs. You can, I suppose. I mean, if it's a salad, that's fine, but don't use ketchup on your hot dog after the age of 18. Fuck yourself. Mustard, relish, onions, cheese, and chili are acceptable. Riddle me this, Captain. How is chili demonstrably that different from ketchup? A nice sweet chili is going to have a rather similar flavor profile. There are a dozen different types of ketchup. You try telling this to the Dutch with their curry ketchup desires that they imported from Suriname, and they'll rage you for your spices too. No, ketchup is a must on a hot dog. The perfect hot dog is this: a line of ketchup. It doesn't have to be a thick line. As a kid, I would just use slather it in ketchup, and that was all I had. I would agree you can use less because you don't need as much when you're older. Little line of ketchup, a line of the sweet chili, and then goat cheese. And and minced onions, of course, is possible, but there tends to be that in the chili. That is the perfect hot dog. It's got the goat cheese, the sweet chili, those counterbalance the flavor really nicely. And then you've got that. You can also do sweet relish. That blends well with it too. If a hot dog could only have one condiment on it, I would say that there are only 2 choices, and those are ketchup and chili. And they have that tomatoey sweetness to them. So they're sort of interchangeable. Chili is basically ketchup, and ketchup is basically chili. You heard it first here from the master of hot dogs with ketchup on them. We got some other super chats, I think. Orwell's Goon. There's no law preventing POTUS and VPOTUS from being from the same state. Trump and DeSantis could run on the same ticket, but I agree they shouldn't. I've heard people say that they're obligated not to be from the same state. I don't know where they get the source. I've just heard it over and over again, so I mention it in passing when it's brought up. Wargame 341. Heard China bought more U.S. farmland in North Dakota. Yes, near a U.S. military airbase. This is a coincidence, by the way. There's no globalist plot involved. Parlock 480. My one complaint of Trump is he didn't follow through on his mandate to drain the swamp and instead let them run wild and agreed to lockdowns. He opposed lockdownerism. You will remember this. He repeatedly opposed lockdowns after the first very short lockdown in the U.S. He did not move to extend them. That was Biden. Biden and other people who had said beforehand, go and party in Chinatown back that February. You'll remember Pelosi saying that. All of a sudden, they spurged out and said Trump's not doing enough. He realized that if he didn't do anything, fast-tracking vaccine, etc., he'd get removed from office. He had no choice. He made a strategic blunder and a strategic win at the same time with his reaction, but he did not have a choice. He made the best of a bad situation. Remember, it's the China virus. It came from a lab in China, partially funded by the Obama admin and Google. Opinionated Junkie. Obama is Bush's 10th cousin on Obama's mama's side. Yeah, I think they're basically all related. Musically assured destruction. These food associations don't mess around. In Italy, they have associations that have strict parameters for what qualifies as true pizza. Well, there should be for such things. You know, something that some weird vegan kale smoothie that's been plastered all over a piece of bread and you put a tomato on top. Some people try to call that a pizza. They're insane. Joe C. Have you done any research on supernatural beliefs based on professions? An example would be sailors and the amount of folklore that it has. I have looked into sailor folklore, definitely. I haven't looked into that'd be an interesting study, actually. Somebody could do a long-term folkloric study of the superstitions of various professions. Actors and actresses is another big one. Politicians would be on there. Yeah, that would be an interesting thing to look into, actually. Thanks for the idea. I'll write a book on the subject. I probably won't get time to do so, but Callahan SF2211, thoughts on Geert Wilders in the Netherlands. I would support him if I were a citizen, but I don't like to weigh in too much on Dutch politics because I am just a resident. Technically speaking, I'm a quasi-guest in the country. That's why I haven't come out with a one-off video talking about the Boerenopstand, the farmer protests. It's not in my lane because I'm not a tax-paying citizen in that sense. Like, I can't vote. I can't run for office. I can't do certain things that are resident. I don't think I can apply for a gun permit. And so it's not really my business. I'm in the country as a guest. It's not really something I need to give my opinion on. Icane619, is attacking Clarence Thomas a smart move for the left? No, it is definitely not. They're trying to act like the one black conservative on the court is the root of the problem. What is the optics of this? Why would this be problematic? It's spawned a million memes already. I think it's hilarious. Yeah, people are weighing in on all of their different toppings for hot dogs. I hold to it. Line of ketchup, quite a bit of sweet chili, and goat cheese. That's all you need ever. Sweet relish is acceptable in this mix. Try it sometime. Drew and Albane, best cop show, Columbo. I'm certain that I've seen Columbo, but I can't remember anything about it. I like Magnum P.I. when I was a kid. I thought that was good. Japanese character username again. Sorry, I mean, I can't pronounce it. Does it say Des or something like that? Which pipeline? The pipeline would have required years of construction and likely faced legal challenges, so it couldn't have solved today's demand. Well, it's been a year and a half. It was already set up. And anyway, you're only addressing part of the problem. Biden also is sitting on permits. He's attempted and temporarily was successful at reducing drilling on federal lands. His overall economic policy has been massively inflationary. That's automatically going to cause gas prices to go up. This is Bidenomics. The lockdownerism that led to a lot of the problems we're seeing today. It's a lingering damage that'll last probably for many more months, maybe even years. Biden encouraged it. Trump did not encourage it. That's the big difference between the two. Will Gooding, Sticks, I was devastated to learn recently the only Sbarro's near me has closed its doors. I used to love their meatballs too. Thankfully, Wawa also has really great meatball subs, so it's okay. I actually make extremely good meatball subs. I love meatball subs. By the way, cheese does not need to go on meatball subs, although it is acceptable. Black olives on it, though, that's a good idea. By the way, if you go to Subway, and their meatball subs are just okay, it's like nothing special, get black olives and get some of their Chipotle sauce on it, and just thank me later. It's pretty good. A Sleek Bandito, why do you oppose the existence of the European Union but not the American federal government? Well, it's apples to oranges. The EU is a modern invention from different nations that have different languages, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That have been traditionally at war. That's not the case with the United States. Most of the states were incepted as territories initially, many of them sparsely or unpopulated. It's not the same as Europe, where they're trying to form a union out of post-industrialized states largely that were, again, variously fighting one another for thousands of years. Hey, Blinken, Sticks, I move people for a living. I've moved about 50 doctors in the last year. Most of them are armed to the teeth with long guns, secret doctor militias. I think everyone should have guns these days. And then Japanese characters again. To be honest, your info seems misleading. Have a good one. As I explained, it's not misleading. It's completely true. I do appreciate the diaper fund contribution, however. Steve T, Article 1, Section 2 prohibits electors from casting ballots for two candidates from the same state. The president and VP must be from separate states. There you go. I was wondering what they were referring to. Imran218, what do you make of Clarence Thomas's sexual assault allegations from the 90s? I'm told they were true, but swept under the rug. Well, if it wasn't prosecuted, if there was not enough evidence to have a trial or anything, that it's meaningless. It doesn't matter whether it happened or not, ultimately. To me, it looked like a political hatchet job. The oil companies are sitting on the permits, says Japanese username. Yes, but the problem is, which permits are they sitting on? The problem is that some of those permits are for drilling that wouldn't actually solve any problem. It's too expensive to actually open up drilling. If you're only going to get so many barrels out of the ground, you have to make sure you can reliably get enough to actually pay for the rig. The problem, really, is exploratory drilling is being throttled. That is new permitting. New permit issuance is being throttled. It's being slowed down. Keystone's not built. I realize it's more of a long-term thing, but it does have an impact. And you also have the Biden admin effectively admitting that it's created this problem. There could be more domestic production. Instead, he would rather beg the Saudis to do so. You'll see last week, he got into it with Macron there. There was a hot mic moment. I made a video about it actually midweek, where he was talking to Macron about trying to lean on the Saudis to amp up oil production, and Macron had to explain, hey, that takes 6 months or more. It's not going to help you for the midterms. And poor Biden, he looked like he was just shambling around, confused. Davidian, belated congrats to you and Liz. Also, a sprinkle of celery salt is amazing on some hot dogs. I like celery salt a lot. Oh, yeah, I've got Drab Majesty still over there. 1111, Sticks, you should do an interpretive dance video explaining your political positions. Lol. Yeah, but the only people that do that, you already know what their political positions are. That's the problem. Jessica, read After the Ashes on Kindle Unlimited. Awesome. Oh, thank you. Glad you liked it. Alamandorius. By the way, please no more super chats because we've gone over an hour already. I had more to cover today. Alamandorius, it was hilarious. I got into a discussion about the inflation with a buddy who insisted that it was the fault of the oil companies. Now Biden is blaming the gas stations. I wonder what my buddy would say now. Lol. He'll probably blame the gas stations. Cognitive dissonance will kick in. They'll also blame Putin, Trump, materialistic consumers. I mean, they blame consumers. Well, why don't you just tighten your belts? Oh, gas is more expensive. Just bike to work. Who the fuck is responsible? If not the chief executive of the United States, who has at least some influence over energy policy, the legislature hasn't done any of this shit. The oil companies haven't magically changed up their formula or their mix or something like that. Biden is responsible, in part because of direct action and in part indirect action by encouraging the lockdowns that killed state economies. This was done in other countries too. When the liberals say, well, inflation is also bad in most other countries in the world. Yes, that's because they engaged in the same behavior, but they don't represent the U.S. economy. The U.S. could have 2% inflation right now and be riding high if we had just not goddamn knee-jerked. But Biden encouraged the knee-jerk reaction. And the Democrats, by and large, at least after February of that particular year, forced Trump to go along with it as well, spending enormous amounts of money to rehabilitate an economy that was artificially suppressed. And that's the truth of it, long and short. That's what happened. Random Japanese username. Biden sucks, but no reason to lie about permits. How am I lying? If you've got let's say you get a permit to drill on a piece of land, right? And because of Bidenflation, you're going to have to invest $10 million to suck a single barrel out of the ground. But there are only 10,000 barrels in there. Are you going to bother drilling on that land? You've got a permit, but are you going to bother to drill? No, you're not going to make a return. What's the point? The fact is there should be more exploratory drilling. We should be doing more fracking as well, number two. And number three, instead of spending huge amounts of money on Chinese solar fields, we should be redirecting that to more exploratory drilling. We've already got the material. It's already in the ground. Biden is the one that initially, by the way, attempted to stymie those permits from being issued at all. He was shot down by the courts. He delayed it for months, thus causing part of the problem that we're currently in. ES 1776. Hey, Sticks. When do you plan on returning to the U.S.? When you do return, an East Coast meet and greet tour would be awesome. I'm not really into doing the meet and greet thing because I'm very private in my private life. Although if I see someone and they recognize me, and I'll shake their hand or take a selfie or say hi or whatever. I don't mistreat people if they recognize me, but I don't go out of my way to try to gather clankers together. Maybe in the future, we'll have a little concert or something. As far as when I'm planning on returning, there's no active plan. I mean, it depends on the situation. We've got a daughter and other stuff to do. Travel can take a while. Also, there are other countries that I'd like to travel to as well. I'd love to see Iceland. So Jack Sparrow is watching from Kenya. Interesting. Then you can go on a safari afterwards. Please make sure to use camera rolls instead of bullets if you are interacting with endangered species. Yeah. War Dog Studios on Twitch pointing out China has grown their CO2 emissions. We've cut ours by 10% based off recent reports. Yeah, that is definitely interesting. Greta Thunberg has ignored this, by the way. I think that Rumble, by the way, has fixed that problem where the chat automatically goes down to the bottom, even if you're up above. I think they finally have fixed that. No, actually, it's not fixed. Sorry. I got my hopes up for absolutely nothing. They need to do that. Bear Charles, you drank the wrong German beer then. Dude, I tried 3 or 4 different kinds of German beer. They all have the same basic problem. Grolsch has the same problem too. I think that's bottled here locally in Enschede in the Netherlands. Like the closer to Germany you get, the more they want you to suffer drinking their beer. Then you get you get Heineken, and it's fairly good. I've never really been a huge beer drinker anyway, and now don't do that anymore. But back when I did, if I was going to drink beer in the US, it was Bud Light or Foster's actually. Bud Light is basically happy water, so that's fine. And Foster's is definitely the best tasting. Apple Toothy on Twitch. Oh God, he's plugging Rumble now. Good grief. Dude, I've got almost 93,000 subscribers there, and there are 600 people watching me there live. Why wouldn't I plug them? Rumble's pretty great. Matthew Lyons, do you expect civil disruptions or riots as food shortages start to hit? I had to buy emergency food supplies just in case. I don't think that you're going to have a run out of food. I mean, it's still being produced, but the price will go up. People will have to eat less. There will be more food scarcity as far as people's pantries as opposed to in the stores. That means that some of it will go and rot in a field somewhere. Be very interesting. OJ Simp, permits don't even guarantee petroleum, and the left is ignoring that the EPA's mission statement at the moment is to promote green energy via taxes. 4 = 5. Yes, exactly. They're throwing all of your tax money at Chinese solar fields that take up fallow land that could be used to grow food or be reforested, or maybe it's like the Bundy Ranch sort of thing. There's an endangered turtle species there. So you're not allowed to have your cattle or your horses graze the land because they might step on a turtle. But you can come in with great big ass excavators and plow the whole thing out and kill every turtle as long as you put up solar panels. You'll remember that, by the way, true story with regards to the Bundy Ranch. I wonder why the people that were prosecuted for that particular standoff, the charges were dropped. They were pointing guns at federal agents, and they served not a day because they literally did nothing wrong in that particular situation. By and large, Bundy and then people directly associated. Then some of them decided to occupy that, weather monitoring station or something owned by the government. They got in trouble for that. People were mailing them dildos, I think. I can't even remember the exact situation, but some of the Bundy people afterwards, like the next year, they had a dust up at a different location, and it was all fucked up. Jimbo Jimmerdogger, what about the heartland? Miles and miles of farmland. No one should starve in this country. Yes, but you got to understand there's corn that is pumped into the fuel supply, and we send a huge amount of surplus material to parts of Africa because they're considerably riddled by famine, and it keeps them poor, so it keeps them reliant on the export, which helps us because it helps the price to go up because it's not being sold on the market, so it's not diluting the price. Otherwise, by the way, farmers wouldn't be able to grow things like corn. They wouldn't be economically feasible for the most part. We put corn syrup in basically every food in the U.S., which is why you have a lot of health problems. Less common here in Europe. You have less health problems. Hey, healthcare costs less in Europe. I wonder why. It's because not every piece of meat that they eat is 10% corn binder. Wow. It gets converted directly to a refined sugar in their bloodstream. It gives them massive diabetes. European food is healthier than American food by and large, by the way. One of the main advantages of Europe. Walter White, Scotch is my drink of choice. Diaper fund, dittos. Yeah, I don't really, I don't do the liquor and beer sort of thing. I can't do it anymore. I'm too old. Yeah. Hypocrisy sucks. Like I said, people will starve, especially in underdeveloped countries. I know, as we've seen with Joe Biden, he's very gregarious with taxpayer resources. Ethiopia will still get its famine grains, just like Ukraine will keep getting its weapons. It's you that won't be able to get them. By and large, though, I don't expect shortages of food available. I expect shortages of food easily available in the amounts that you'll need to maintain the same lifestyle. That will begin hitting in 4 weeks to 10 weeks, roughly. There will be a lag on when you actually see the effect, but it will begin hitting at that time, harvest season, late July, especially August and September. And then before midterms, the damage will start showing up. And people will say, Sticks, you were right again. Thankfully, I bought a bunch of garbanzo beans. By the way, you can make so much great food. All you need is herbs and spices and like the salt and stuff. That's fairly cheap. You can grow it yourself, by the way. It's probably not too late in some parts of the country. Get your rice, get plenty of beans. Canned is fine, dried is fine, whatever. And then some coconut milk and butter and a few other things. You can mix these things together at your leisure and just add some basic vegetables like celery. I don't imagine is going to cost an arm and a leg. You can make so many great things out of it. New Jocular, could you mention U.S. ban on breaded reactors? We are stuck with ancient nuclear tech in USA, hobbling the country for no reason. I know nothing about that particular subtopic. I will have to look into it. Ray C, can I get a whoa, Bundy? Yeah, Bundy did nothing wrong. Japanese character dude is paying me to tell me I'm lying again. You did lie, dude. You said Biden was withholding permits. Then when I challenged you, you said it's not just permits. One is not necessarily subjugate to the other. Have you seen a Venn diagram? He did initially attempt to withhold permits. It was injuncted by the courts. That doesn't mean there wasn't a delay on the permitting process before the injunction. Of course that happened. And now, but then that doesn't, for existing, you're talking about existing permits anyway with the second part of your comment. The existing permits, yeah, they're sitting on hundreds of existing permits because they've determined that without considerable more exploration, there's not enough fuel there to bother drilling. You're not going to see an energy company. No person in their right mind is going to invest $10 million into something that's going to make them $1 million back. That would be asinine. And instead of expanding their ability to go onto federal lands, et cetera, and offshore, by the way, is being attacked now as well by the U.S. politicians, instead of exploring, because there's oil and gas and shit literally everywhere in the world, and we just never realized it before the last couple of decades, they're trying to throttle that in the name of green energy. So Chinese solar fields, which don't give you a return until 20, 30 years later, if at all. Musically assured destruction. Have you reported on new ethanol standards for gas from 10 to 15%? Many cars on the road will be ruined because they are not purposed for the new mixture. Yeah, apparently the normal blend that's discontinued this time of year is being allowed to continue, which will cause potentially wear and tear on engines. Mary Chase, found in Netherlands is good. What cuisine do you like there? Bitterballen is king. Yes, with mustard. One thing you don't need ketchup for? Croquette is good. I don't know. I've tried a lot of Stamppot is really good. It reminds me of a cottage pie, actually. By the way, I've modified my mom's cottage pie recipe and managed to actually make it even better. Sorry, Mom, but I got to say the fenugreek really does something extra to it. Ray C, referring to Al Bundy. Whoa, Bundy. Oh, I thought you were referring to the Bundy Ranch incident. Lance Corporal Veteran, warning, feds are reinstating mask mandates in GSA facilities. Yeah, let the feds wear masks. They already do when they protest as Patriot Front now, don't they? Yeah, you see, they showed up the other day to be, stupid again. They are feds, by and large. I've concluded that this is probably the case. Yes, Crystal Mayo on Twitch. Fenugreek is good. I had never had it when I was younger. The first time I smelled it, though, I knew of its existence, but had never tasted it. Smelled it, I'm like, oh, that smells great. I'm going to pile a shit ton of this in this soup. And I put it on garlic bread, actually, which is really good, in pasta sauce, basically everything. Sauron Morgoth. Tarl seems to like sweet foods. No, actually, I like herby, savory foods with a lot of like butteriness. I like dairy, like creaminess and stuff like cheeses. I really don't like sweet foods much. But if it is tomatoey, I like it on the sweeter side. So pasta sauce, pizza sauce, stuff like that. The sauces mainly that you do. Simple Logic 90, and please no more super chats. I really do have to go off in a couple minutes. Styx is a real country boy. Garden, shoot stuff, self-sufficient. Have you ever heard of Aaron Lewis, country singer with lots of tattoos and hates normies? He's from Vermont. No, I haven't. And then Japanese characters. I appreciate your explanation, but you're wrong. Yeah, you're welcome to that. That's like just your opinion, man. Tornado text. The border is Swiss cheese and Dem bots are obsessed with late-term abortions. The great replacement is a conspiracy theory. Lol. Yeah, fixating on abortion at this time doesn't seem to be doing much for the Democrats in polling. They got no bounce whatsoever on the generic congressional. Transylvanian 90, not to worry. Canadian feds are never going to give up on the mask BS since the summer of 2020. All provinces dropped it, but the feds didn't get the memo. Yeah, well, let the feds wear masks. Then people will know who to distrust. Anyway, I'm going to go off now. I enjoyed this live stream as usual. Went almost an hour 20 because I had to make up for lost time from yesterday. And yeah, I might go live tomorrow. I'll certainly go live at least, I'd say, twice through the next week. But I do have other things that I have to do, like in real life things, and also something that it is going to be, I believe, pre-rect on Thursday. It will be extremely major, and it's a run-up, a foreshock of the epic midterm live stream that I will be doing. Yes, I will be live doing the midterms for 3 or 4 hours minimum. I'll either need a huge amount of caffeine or to be in the U.S. at the time of the election, and I'll be completely dead the next day. I'll just basically sleep the entire time. That's about all. Peace out.